I'm going for a morning walk, and there was an interesting idea that came to my mind, and I thought I'd share. So it's this idea of 8 billion siblings. It's a strange idea, bear with me. But there's something interesting about it. So there's 8 billion. The title is 8 billion siblings born from the womb of non-existence, okay? I know this people are gonna be like, yo man, it's like too intense poetry over here. Like but if I were to explain it to you, what I'm implying is that the commonality of human beings in regards to associating from the location they enter into reality. So it's kind of like if there were, let's say if we were to look at how siblings feel for one another, in the sense of like if you have brothers or sisters, how your association is from one family. I was thinking that it's as if the same appearance into reality is happening for all beings. So technically, it's as if we've all come out of non-existence into existence. Now, of course, we have different interpretations of how this has happened and what is the meaning. And of course, since 2024, I have a unique interpretation of what's going on. Firstly, again, I said for people who maybe knew that I'm a Muslim sci-fi writer, and pretty much I'm that human being in this reality that has seen the parallels of, if you were to look at, let's say, religion, monotheistic religion, and Islam peculiarly, specific to my eyes, not specific to my eyes, but from my view, I see parallels between Islam and the notion of a system administrator, between God, the one and only, and the notion again of a system admin. And when I look at certain stories from the Holy Quran, I see, for example, patterns in the sense of, for example, the angels being the moderators. Okay, God being a system admin outside of the system, in the sense that God is the uncaused that caused causality. And I see human beings as members. So the most basic example, it's like I had a Discord server, I was an admin of it. And there were moderators, I appointed moderators, and there were members, people who were just, entering that universe, entering that world of the Discord server. I remember there was one occasion where a moderator had miscommunicated to a member, or there was a conflict between the member and the moderator. And it had led to a situation where the member had kind of reached out to me and was like, what is this? And so my response to that member was like, okay, good thing you came directly to the admin of this server, okay? You see, if you for a moment put away how language is giving meaning and you just look at this, you notice that you're inside an existential system, okay? And we're an experiential player. And that we human beings could be communicating with moderators. They could be, under the authority of moderators, which is wrong in some sense. So, at least some perspective I want to share here is that we must go directly to the system admin of this world, and not just this world, of all worlds. And something I forgot to start the episode. Excuse me for this, but Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. You know, the point of this is that the system admin is a relationship with an original position of being to work with moderators or members or to have one's attention like a flagpole landed on the simulated and worldly. That is, I find that to be an error. Now, when I say 8 billion siblings born out of, the womb of non-existence, it's like, okay, it's like, I do understand I need to relax with the poetry here, right? But what I want to say is that pretty much I've wondered about the endeavors of the human being. My mind has seen probabilities of what will happen. And what's really strange that's been going on is like there is, from an approach, a sort of singularian view. And then this has been kind of fragmented due to a technology. So I kind of see that existentially there's like, let's say, a singular unified presence here. Good morning. So I do see a sort of, again, singular unified presence. What does that mean? That means we look at it, we're like, yo, man, it's one planet. But then you see that human beings, in accordance to their cultural programming, in accordance to the language, and all these factors, they've kind of simulated realities inside a singular. So this doesn't mean it's all, like, sure, from one view, yes, it's like the Earth is just one planet. But from another perspective, it's been fragmented, and I'm not trying to say that all nations are like the Earth, but I'm saying that there's a specific. See, from one context, yes, it's all planet Earth. From another context, it's been nationalized, right? And the reason and nationalism helped even with like languages becoming singularized for each nation. So anyways, what I'm trying to say, it's like from one perspective, if we don't choose to see a system admin, it's just like beings that appeared on a rock in the middle of nowhere and started a massive storytelling project. This massive storytelling project allowed the human beings to take one complete, like one blank canvas, and in some sense, to pretty much create games. So for me, language is sort of like a simulation inside a simulation. But I say a simulation inside a simulation in the sense that I consider this whole existence to be a test. In the same way, for example, Adam and Eve were, distracted or listened to that which was like a simulated entity, or that which wasn't original code. For me, it's for me, the serpent is like the second test. If the first test was failed, the second test, the whole world became, in some sense, this simulation, So it was as if, or let me say it this way, Adam and Eve were not simulated. They were, let's say, created by the Creator with a majesty, as if they were masterpieces of the greatest. And they listened to the simulated. Now, the test has become a bit more interesting, the second test. And that's, in some sense, everything is simulated in this context. That means the world yourself as a temporary form. And so this world first, I can say that I understood the non-religious angles or more spiritual angles of it deeper first. But my approach to it is that it's a system. It's definitely a simulation. Elementally, it's obviously a simulation because we're like candles, and our conscious attention is like the candle flame. We're here for a little while and then we exit, correct? So the way out of this system is through the system admin. The system admin is not worldly, and yet we are in the world. When I think about how human beings are responsible to some degree for their own affairs, not just, let's say, a transcendental agency, of course that's there. This world does have a transcendental agency. There is a divine surveillance state. This divine surveillance state is, I call it level 3, pretty much. It's when you realize objects and subjects are cyclical and looping, and that there is an ability to be aware of that which is not just limited to form. Anyways. In earlier talks in 2023, I was thinking about the efforts of the human species, because my mind plays with notions of the future. I think I'd spoken about certain lectures about humanity, like the great familia. What I meant, the human familia. What I meant is that we're all associating with subjectively conditioned cultural positions. But as human beings realize, the context is way more singular than how they're conceptually separating themselves from everything. Then it's as if we are simulating our disassociation with all those point positions of life force that have arrived in the same way. It's pretty much like, you see this whole grass field, right? Now imagine each singular straw of grass was like yo man, I'm not this, like, do you understand? It's like they're all in the same field. In the same field the human species has sprouted, right? So our acknowledgement of the field will bring in a consciousness that we're not just singular. And so we have to think about it in the future, whether it's people realizing, in some sense, the divine surveillance state, remembering it, the original, or there comes a technological surveillance state where our brains are connected to the same server. I'm pretty much saying that human beings, as we go forward in time, we're having more than a relationship with what's just in the space, and having a more direct relationship with how the space is being where we all are, right? And anyways, I think this is an important consideration. To be honest, guys, I mean, I guess I shared the title for poetic value, but what I meant is that in association of arriving from a non-existential position to an existential position, it's as if you have you have received a membership into existence. Okay, so it's like if people were like all going to the same gym and you had a card to, like, become a member of this, let's say it was like your membership to enter in and out. to be a human form, to be human, is a sort of membership in an existential event, right? And we wake up in the mornings logging in into it and then logging out and having our own, approaches to this, right? But I'm saying, like, the system has this, and it's honestly video game. Like, I mean, if you look at the metaphor, 2D screen, you're a pixelated character in a video game, but what's actually sitting and playing the video game is a three-dimensional being, right? So the two-dimensional video game is being played by a three-dimensional player. Okay, so when we think, if we were to kind of like fractalize this, we would see that it's as if we are a 3D inside a 3D elemental video game, right? And then there comes the curiosity of what is playing this 3D level of this video game, and what other levels are there. And so far, in my own previous, research of what do you call it? My previous research of different metaphysical traditions. You see, it's like a spectrum. It's a spectrum of being pure space, which is a unification of all that is, and then in some sense being very specific. So it's a spectrum of general being and specific being. And so this is important from an angle. Anyways, guys, life is changing. Ever since discovering that there's a system admin, for me, like, I'm a unique, I'm in a unique position here, because for a decade I ran towards spirituality, okay, and I was so surprised when I realized if I put the cultural symbolism of what this means and that means away, ultimately it's a relationship of the simulated with the original. Okay, there cannot be the simulated without the original. So if you treat it that way, that you're stuck in a simulation, how do you get out of this simulation? The religious approach is, it is not up to you. It is up to the mercy of the system admin, which in some sense has positioned the system here. So do you see what the difference is between spirituality and religion? Spirituality is discovering truth through yourself. But religion is saying, yo, buddy, you focusing on yourself, you focusing on others, you focusing on the world. These are in some sense, it's like, it doesn't matter if you worship like a statue, like an idol, or you worship yourself as an idol, or you or you worship a musical idol or whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? Or you idolize the world. So to me, it's a specific protocol. It's like, imagine there's a bunch of keys and you've come to a door that is locked. So when you've come to this locked door, the wishful thinking of humanity is like, yo, man, like the spirituality is kind of like, yo, man, any key can work. I just have to meditate, But when you realize, no, it's when it's a system, it has a specific protocol, and if you want the specific result, you require to abide by the specific protocol. That means if you really want to open a door, you can't just use any key, okay? You can try as many keys as you want. I won't say that's unhealthy. That's good. But I'm saying there's a specific way. Like, for example, if you were to solve a Rubik's Cube, like, there's a specific algorithm to that, right? If you were to do certain things, with the specific results, I'm saying there's a specific way of going about it. I'm saying that if you strip away the cultural programming, the language, and you just realize, okay, I'm like a candle in a dark room here for a little while. Why is the light on? And what turned this light of me being in an existential system at all? And the curiosity of this is, in some sense, it's important to pay attention to the position. Now, if one takes this a bit deeper, it would be as if, like, imagine, they say contact the manufacturer for all problems. if you were, if you, if you were to look at this in a way, it would be, how would I say it? It would be as if from one strange angle, something that is just a metaphor. Don't take it as absolutism, but it's just a metaphor. If you were to look at it as a company, the system, right? I see it as a system with a system admin. Like, I like that imagery of there being a system admin way better than what I'm saying here, as if company, as if there's a boss to a company, and this boss has set its employees into performance review to see if it wants to keep them or not. you know or if it's a creator position that has created something to test the quality of its creation. you know so if we were to consider this existential system and also situation to be a simulation that is a performance review, that's a testing zone, that you have come into a testing zone, but you're being monitored by the divine surveillance state, not by the technological surveillance state that hasn't come into existence and will have a lot of impurities and imperfections in it, or the natural surveillance state, whether like you're walking and you suddenly see like animals staring at you, human beings staring at you. It's like yes, from one level it's the brain of the organism, from another level it's a lens. What's looking through that lens could be way deeper. Even right now, me communicating, it's like the limits of my understanding of my human position, it has a range. The brain is a certain information processor. Okay, and anyways, in this performance review, I wondered about, all right, so let's say 8 billion beings in in existence Inc. are they're being in some sense, reviewed. From an Islamic approach, to my understanding so far, there's certain clues a person can get from what's going on here. One, the world is too big to explore its edge. Okay, so we cannot ever index the totality of existence to come with an accuracy of calculation. Okay, so we cannot index the whole cosmos. We cannot know exactly where we are. Second, in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, forgive me, I don't remember this exactly, but it is that the soul is the secret of God. It is the secret of the Creator. Now, this implies that all those people who are on paths of self-discovery, who are trying to become enlightened and self-realized, there is a restriction. And you do, at least in my experience, it's not the restriction zone is in the sense of who is in charge. You see, spirituality, you are in the driver's seat. Everything else is in the passenger seat. Religion, you are in the passenger seat. The creator position is in the driver's seat. So, and it's another way of saying you don't know where the address is that you're driving to, but the system admin does. And of course, we've been raised in an era, where people are praising individualism, but that's in some sense unnecessary, because the value of life is not based on our individual action, your human species, your human civilization. It is the sum total of all of our activities. That means if you're in a place where everybody's presence and activity is influencing it, you at some point have to wake up from the cultural boundaries. You have to wake up from how our differences are more important than what we all will do here. You know, it's the legacy of the human species we're talking about here. You know, and I have a very deep, I guess, care for the potential of the human species. But in 2023, I hadn't realized that the advanced civilization requires original power. And when I was speaking about how the next phase of humanity is advanced communication, little did I know that advanced communication is equivalent to a character in a fiction novel realizing the author's handwriting in every moment, the non-fiction authors. So you see, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to tell you is that we are in this world. This is an opinion, of course, this is a view, that we are in this world being tested to see if we notice the higher power. If you pay attention between the contrast of the idea of theism and atheism, the issue with us being the most highest power is that we limited to this, right? So if somebody would say, what is the difference between an atheist and a theist? The atheist sees itself as the higher power. The theist sees itself as the lower power. And the one that sees itself as authentically the lower power accesses the higher power. You see, it's like going in front of a king in medieval times as a peasant back in the day and being like, nah, man, I'm king. You know, and the whole kingdom, like the whole court is like staring at you like, what? Do you know what I'm saying? Right? So I'm saying that there is even, at least in my view, I have this view that there's even a chain of command here. There's positions here. And to, in some sense, enter the divine surveillance state is to realize that the higher power is considered a higher power because it is beyond objects and subjects. The combination of how you're being an object and subject right now is the lower power. The lower power loops. It cyclically loops. The higher power is the position where the being's like, no, the being's like, I'm not the only, how do I say it? To me, the higher power is when you realize you don't know, and you realize the complexity and sophistication that has gone into the system you're in is a way more, than what our past experiences can see as familiar patterns now. So anyways, guys, just like I have been, cyclically walking right now, I wanted to say that, it's a poetic episode, the title, but what I'm really trying to say is that you have more in common. You have something very important in common with every human being, and believe it or not, with every being, and that is that you are existing in the system. You're all here. And the more intelligent the system becomes, the more communication there is between all levels and all chains of command. So I feel the greatness of the human species requires for it, or let me say the original greatness of the human being requires in some sense the bypassing and the submission of the simulated greatness. So if you had a choice between being a simulated, between simulated power, between a simulated power source and an original power source, between a simulated world and an original world, between being again a simulated being or an original being, I would say go towards the original. Because the design, the way the objects and subjects have been positioned in this world, and of course this is one man's view, God knows best, but the way it's coming across is that it's temporary. So what that means is your sense of what you have now is situational. you know, it's based on the position of your attention. Anyways, thank you for listening, and yeah, have a great day. And again, the intention for the title was that if siblings have, let's say, a bond or something in common, by, for example, being born out of the same position, I find it that it's the same for the totality of human beings. That means we're all like born, let's say poetically, from the womb of the earth. We're all the earth was born, all everything in existence was born poetically from the womb of non-existence, and it's just this idea. It is this idea of, in some sense, that because we have all entered through the same door into this world, that is our common. Do you understand? That is a common denominator that can lead to an incredible greatness of humanity. That means the next time you see human beings around you, you'll be like, yo, man, I may have nothing. My body, my mind may have nothing in common with this person, but we're all in, walk through the same doorway, and now we're in this manifest system. What's the next steps towards the greatness of the human legacy? And I find that to acknowledge the system admin and directly to go to the system admin rather than any sort of simulated moderator or member is the way. Thank you for listening, and all right, guys, have a good day. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Thank you.